Good evening to one and all present here. I am M.Y.S. Shri. It's really captivating to see such a great gathering again for the third lecture. I know it's all your enthusiasm and curiosity to learn about ISS and space that brings you. So, without much delay, I would like to give a quick summary of yesterday's lecture. Firstly, we were given an introduction about what the launch vehicle is and details of various launch vehicles like Soyuz launch vehicle, H2 launch vehicle, and Proton launch vehicle. The significant talk on heritage of earlier space stations, launch vehicles used for ISS assembly machines, detail of access to the space station, and the activities of crew was really fascinating. Next, we had seen the ISS power system in detail, which included the solar array and power system, solar array blanket configuration. Then we had some very fascinating visuals of rotation of solar panels. Moving on, we learned how the access of serving of ISS is done, and we had gripping visuals of Soyuz MS-07 docking ISS. At the end, we seen a visual of exceptional life of the crew in the spaceship. And today we will have a remarkable lecture. We will specifically cover environmental control and life support system of ISS, details of spacesuit, the crew training on ground, and research activities on the board the ISS. So hereby, I invite Dr. M.Y.S.Prasad to deliver his lecture on today's topic. Sir, please.
Thank you. Understood, and thank you very much. Very nice of you. Okay. Very nice to see all of you still interested after 2 lectures. Normally, I had not expected, after one lecture itself, I have not expected other people will be still interested. Anyway, it's nice to see all of you. And I once again repeat for the sake of the people who had not attended earlier that this is purely from the material which is in the public domain and very magnanimously provided by NASA in its extensive articles and documents, and also the YouTube and Wikipedia. I think I have to mention Wikipedia is one of the best sources technically to study any of these topics. And this is purely for educational purpose, and this presentation is to celebrate 20 years of continuous human presence on the International Space Station. Now, this is the International Space Station orbiting around the Earth at 400 kilometers altitude with a mass of 419 tons. And it's having a Russian orbital section and a US orbital section, all of them of course interconnected. And on the US orbital section, it also contains the European and the Japanese laboratories. And most important, there is a big integrated truss structure, 108 meters long and 120 tons mass, which contains Canadian robotic arm, who are specialists in robotic arms, which can lift up to almost 80 tons of mass, and the solar panels. Now, this rotates 16 times a day, 15 to 16 times a day around the Earth. Every movement, every orbit takes 92 minutes of time. This project was the project of 5 international space agencies, that is the NASA of USA, Roscosmos of Russia, and ESA on behalf of 11 European countries, and the JAXA on behalf of Japan, and Canadian Space Agency on the behalf of Canada. And designs started, of course, it integrated a lot of heritage designs of a Freedom Space Station, which was taken up by USA after Space Shuttle, and also the heritage of the Mir Space Station and Mir 2 designs of the former USSR. With all these things, the design was frozen in 1994, and the assembly started. Our first module, which was to put into orbit, happened in 1998. And they expected at the time that it will be completed in 5 years' time and another 5 years operations. But it took 13 years for the assembly. It took up to 2011, and up to now it is being operated. The first crew was on board in November 2nd, 2000, and now this November they completed 20 years continuous presence. Not the same people, but one crew after other. Now, for such a big project, and this project costed 100 billion US dollars, which is equivalent to 7 lakh crore rupees over 13 years for its manufacture, assembly and operations. Now, there are thousands of people all over these countries who had worked for it. As you know, any big project can be done only by the team effort of thousands of people. But if you want to remember, or if you want to recognize any one or two leaders who have done this, I think we should definitely mention in this lecture about Dr. William Gerstenmaier. William Gerstenmaier, same age as mine. He had joined NASA and more than 45 years he worked. He worked at different places. He worked as project manager for the Space Shuttle. Later he worked as a project manager for the International Space Station. Later he moved into much higher position, and for a long time, 14 years, he had been the Associate NASA Administrator for Human Space Exploration and Operations. It's a big position, and he is the man who had seen from design to manufacture, assembly, operations, and he is the most influential person internationally. And he is a great technology leader. He is a very good negotiator, arbiter of disputes, and if he is there, there will be no dispute and people will cooperate. That is his quality, and I think such people have led from NASA and also from other countries this type of project. Now, the crew, as I told you, the first crew went in 1998. The first crew consisted of 3 people. They are Yuri Gidzenko and Sergei Krikalev, these 2 people from Russia, and the third person, William Shepard from USA. And William Shepard relatively had lesser period in space experience, whereas the other 2 had more than 15 months and 10 months already in the space in the Mir space station. But still, Shepard is named as the commander. And because of that dynamics, what was decided at the time is the commander of the International Space Station alternates between USA and Russia. That means the crew commander will be from Russia and third one will be from US, like that. It's happening till now. And 63 expeditions, each team going there and coming back is called an expedition. All may not come, some will continue for continuity, some people will be brought back. And the crew also was originally 3, later became 2 for some years, and from 2009 onwards it's 6 people completely. This 63 expeditions are completed, and 64th expedition was launched as recently as November of this year by, again, it's again historic, by a private company, SpaceX, with its big launch vehicle and on a commercial crew mission for NASA. And as of July 2020, as of July this year, 241 astronauts, crew, have gone to the space station. Out of that, 153 are US and 47 are from Russia, and others from other countries, and some of them multiple times. This is the record of the crew. Why I am mentioning more about the crew is, today's lecture is mostly dedicated to the crew and its operations. Now, to sustain a crew on board, what do you need? As I told you again, I am recapitulating. If a person has to stay on board, he needs 0.84 kg of oxygen per day. and minimum of 3.5 kg or 3.5 liters of water. That is for drinking and for food and water already which is there in the food. If we take hygiene and washing, the average water per day per person will be 25.4 liters or 25.4 kg. And the solid food which each astronaut takes per day is 600 grams, 0.6 kg. And what is his output? His output will be 1 kg of carbon dioxide and 137 watts of heat as radiation. These are the inputs and the outputs from the man. So, if we have to maintain a person on board, all these things we have to manage. In addition to these two, one thing which we normally do not know and never count is the perspiration and the respiration fluids or water which comes out from our body is 2.28 kg per day. So, if you have to sustain the crew on board, you need to provide all these things. And then you have to provide the habitation accommodation, and you have to provide the environmental control and medical and health support. Medical and health support you have to maintain. And then you have to do the data and the managing, because without computers, without computing and without data, nothing can be done there. I think I have not mentioned, but you should all know, there will be 192 kbps uplink to the space station on S-band and 50 mbps in the downlink. 50 mbps with all videos and other things, and to some extent, sometimes where there is a high data to be sent to the ground, they can go up to 100 mbps. So, that much data management has to be done. And then the microgravity, conditioning of the people for the microgravity environment is very important. Countermeasures against microgravity. And this other most important thing is, in case of any emergency for the crew to come back, always there are 2 Soyuz spacecrafts attached to the International Space Station. So, any emergency, the 6 astronauts will divide into 2 groups, get into Soyuz, disengage, and then do a deorbit burn and then come back to the Earth. So, that is the scheme of maintaining the crew on board. Now, on the ECLSS means Environmental Control and Life Support System. This is the small acronym what we use. What does it mean? What it means is, you need to manage water, you need to create oxygen, you need to remove carbon dioxide. As already I told you, such a big space station, crew is only 6. That 6 is not limited by area, limited by volume. It is limited purely by carbon dioxide and removal of carbon dioxide. If more than 6 astronauts stay on board, after 1 month they cannot work, they will have high fatigue because of carbon dioxide increases more than 1% of the volume. You cannot allow that. And as you know, the atmosphere has to be maintained, and the atmosphere contains this atmosphere revitalization means the oxygen 21%, nitrogen 78%, and the remaining spare gases. What happens is, because of the leaks, small leaks from various ceilings, the pressure comes down. The overall atmosphere pressure has to be maintained this as a sealed component, as if it is on the sea level. That is 1 atmosphere, which is equal to 101.3 kilopascals, or in PSI if you talk it, 14.7 PSI, which is called 1 KSC in the other times. So, for that to maintain, whatever, suppose carbon dioxide you remove, or if some oxygen is lost or some oxygen is breathed in, you have to keep supplying. And you have to maintain that air all around. Then water recovery is very important, because the water, as I told you, 25 kg per person per day is required. So, you can count how much is required if every time you send a launch, one single say Soyuz launch, which has to take about 2.5 tons of supplies or 3 tons of supplies to the space station, costs a minimum of 400 to 500 crore rupees. So for 500 crore rupees, we will be sending 3 tons of supplies, including clothes, food items, water, etc. So if this level of water has to be maintained. So the very excellent system, what we'll further discuss is water recovery. How did they do it? Okay. And very important thing, another thing is the fire detection and suppression. As I told you, there was one case in the history of the world in the Mir space station where it caught fire. And they were, so much terrifying thing. Almost everybody, including us who are hearing it live, were thought that the world lost Mir. But luckily it suppressed. I think yesterday when some boy was asking about some health related things, I told there is a book called Off the Planet by a doctor which has to be read. That book is written by a doctor who was sent to Mir, not to space station or anything. He spent more than a few months in the Mir and he wrote a book. And so fire detection and suppression is by normal, just like what we do here. It is by smoke detectors, number of smoke detectors. Of course, everywhere it is put because there are a lot of racks and each rack is containing water, gas, nitrogen gas and temperature control and also the vibration suppression systems, because whenever you fire thrusters there will be some vibration, nothing should happen. So it will actually accelerometer sense and then compensate for that, and the equipment will be without any vibration. So there is a scope for fire to start anywhere. So the fire detection system and fire suppression is standard carbon dioxide fire extinguishers. But before they operate, they have to take a lot of precautions. First, they have to stop the oxygen supply. Then they have to supply the air going around between module to module. Then they have to see that this carbon dioxide doesn't go to elsewhere and create trouble. All that they have to do. So this is another very important thing. And the third important thing is extravehicular activity support, which will come to that soon. Now, in the to maintain the environment, the 4 most important things is carbon dioxide removal and water regeneration and oxygen generation and fire detection and suppression. These 4 are the most important to maintain a long-term cruise on the space. Now, the ECLSS also contains maintaining local pressure. I told you already 101.3 kilopascals has to be maintained. And the important thing is the volatile gases removal and filters. So what do they do there? Because this is the carbon dioxide limits which is put by NASA. Even though on Earth carbon dioxide percentage is 0.03%, they found that up to 4% it doesn't affect the body. So what is specified as a standard is 0.4% of carbon dioxide can be allowed. Anything by above 0.4% has to be removed. Now the carbon dioxide, how do you remove? There are 2 methods. One is lithium hydroxide can be used as adsorbent. It absorbs the carbon dioxide, reacts, and lithium carbonate and water will be generated, and that water has to be removed. And for that it requires 2 kg of lithium hydroxide per person per day. One person's 0.84 kg of carbon dioxide, if you want to remove, you need 2 kg of lithium hydroxide candles. They are called candles. Okay. So one candle of 7.5 kg can service 4 people. So you can count how much is required. Okay. The second method, because this is once this lithium hydroxide absorbs the carbon dioxide and converts it, it is no more useful. It has to be packed like yesterday you have seen. into the waste cabins and to be pushed into the MPLM and then to be brought to the ground, and while coming in the re-entry it will burn. But there is a regenerative method which is called 4-bed molecular sieve. The 4-bed molecular sieve is the one which absorbs the carbon dioxide and then convert it. And one bed, when it absorbs and saturates, the other one can be brought into operation, and this one you can heat it to revitalize it. So this is the, in this 4BMS, what is used is called Geolite 5A and Geolite 13X. These are the beds, these are the material which are used in the beds to absorb the carbon dioxide and then react it and then make it into water. This carbon dioxide, what is absorbed, is vented out actually. In both these cases, in this case 4BMS, carbon dioxide will not react and become water or anything, unlike in the lithium hydroxide. Here it will be just vented out. And but in the new system, Europeans have introduced in the International Space Station, where this carbon dioxide which is absorbed will be recycled. It will go to another equipment called Sabatier reactor, in which it reacts with hydrogen and again becomes methane plus water, and water is retained and methane is sent outside. So you see, oxygen is generated from water by electrolysis, hydrogen and oxygen, and on the Russian side they went out the hydrogen and oxygen is used, and on the US and European side water is electrolyzed and oxygen is used, hydrogen is sent to Sabatier reactor, and carbon dioxide is absorbed by the 4-bed molecular sieve and carbon dioxide is sent to Sabatier reactor. There hydrogen and CO2 will react and then they will become methane and again water, and this water also again goes. All this water is recycled again. So basically at both the places, as I told you, oxygen generation, carbon dioxide removal, water recirculation and fire detection, these 4 are the most important things. Now this water, which is wastewater, including urine and also the condensate from our breathing, condensate from our body, that means the sweat what the astronauts give out, the sweat, the urine and any water in the cabin, or when the people go out and do the operations in the spacewalk and extravehicular activities, water is circulated in the suit to cool them. That water comes back wastewater. All this water is collected and water will be retreated, and 65% of this water is recycled back, and half of it goes for again oxygen generation through electrolysis, and remaining will be further refined and will be used as the potable water, that means people to drink the water. Now the two most important things, the two most important things what affect astronauts is, one is microgravity. As I already told you, when there is weightlessness, the bones will weaken, muscle atrophy will happen, cardiovascular rhythm will be disturbed, and many times there are some other effects which are short term. But the other thing is radiation. The radiation from very high energy particles and gamma rays, which will affect the astronauts. That is very important, because what astronauts will receive per year is 3.3 SV per year. On Earth we receive only 0.005 SV. Actually most of you must have read RADS, okay, radiation dose, radiation absorbed dose, it's called RADS. Normally it's in RADS counted, but number of RADS it will become gray and number of grays will become Number of grays will become one sievert, it's called. This is sievert, okay? And 0.3 sievert per year they absorb. The effect of it is most of the astronauts, if they spend long time in the space, they come back and contract cancer. Many of them will get cancer. This is the risk for this radiation. And now, the crew, what does the crew do in the space station per day? On average, 8 hours they sleep. 4 hours is for hygiene and food. And about 9 hours is for work. And 2 hours exercise, which is a must. Everybody must do 2 hours if required. If when there is a less work, they have to do more time. And 1 hour free time. That free time they can read, they can paint, they can see through the windows, or if they are lazy like us, they can sleep 1 more hour. But generally, this is the timetable. 8 hours sleep, 9 hours work, 4 hours for food and hygiene, means bath, everything put together. Then 2 hours exercise and 1 hour free time. If we really follow this, our productivity will become 10 times more than our what is our present productivity. I think we should follow this. Okay, and then they will be. That's why all these astronauts will be very fit, at least when they go there. Okay, afterwards we do not know how they will be. Now you can see this is the 62nd expedition. That means just 2 expeditions before, and she is Jessica Meyer. She has done very good experimental work. Next one. Now this is the physical exercise. As you see here, this is the what do you call treadmill or not treadmill? Basically walking. Okay, walking and a fast one. Here they have to be attached to this. Otherwise, while walking, when they give the force here, because there is no gravity, they will fly away. So not to fly away, they have to do this. In fact, incidentally, in the first day's video, Sunny Williams didn't say, but when these astronauts sit on the commode for the toilet, there also they have to strap their thighs to the bottom. Otherwise, they will fly away. Okay. These are all the different exercises. Now, the treadmill, as I told you, with this attachment, they keep on doing. Of course, here it is put 4 kilometer and 4.5 kilometer of run and 4 kilometer walk, but time wise, 2 hours they must work, physical. Next. Now, this is the urine processing rack, and this is the water processing rack. What do they do here? Because the urine processing, because normally when we drink about 2.5 to 3 liters of water, almost 90% of it we release it as the urine. So it's all waste. So this is what is collected. Before collecting, what they do, they add pre-treatment of the urine by adding for every 1 liter of urine 2.3 grams of sulfuric acid, so that it pre-treats, so that urea doesn't become ammonia, which is very dangerous. Then they send it here. There are a number of filters here, and number of filter tanks, and then there are a lot of filtrations to remove. And another picture I will show you where the biological and the water are removed, and then afterwards they are actually distilled and condensed. Distilled and condensed water, distilled or condensed urine will be added to the wastewater. Here the water from the utensil washing and clothes washing and body perspiration, humidity from the cabin and from the space suits, everything comes here, and this whole thing will again go through a number of filtrations, and then this will be again distilled, and then it goes out. So currently, this was installed in 2009, urine processor. And it took 1 year for them to prove 2-3 times. They brought the samples, processed urine back to the ground, tested thoroughly, sent it back. Then only they told, okay, astronauts, you can start drinking it as a normal water. And at that time, the recovery is 75%. 75% of the urine is recovered as the water, potable water. Now in 2016, they have added another chemical which increases that recovery to 90%. So today, overall on the space station, 65% of the water they use is recovered. Remaining 30% is the waste, and in between you have to send it up to cover. Next. This is in the 2010, you can see the 3 astronauts drinking the water. They're drinking the water, and this water is the one which is created from the urine. In fact, I asked one astronaut when I met him, how did you feel when you drink that water which is recovered from urine? He said, oh, what is the difference? You drink the urine converted to water after 1 year after you urinate, and I am drinking the next day. That's all the difference, he said. Because when we urinate, it will also go into the ground, and then at various layers it gets filtered, goes to the water table, comes back through the water, and gets refined and then supplied to us. That's all the difference. But then they do it the next day itself. Okay. Next. This is heat rejection. There are the different heats. One is astronaut's heat. That is nothing. Actually, the biggest heat comes from solar panels. I think yesterday Ravi Shekhar was asking me the question, how do the radiators? Actually, each solar panel set has got one radiator. Here one, here one, here one, here one. 4 radiators. Each of them will radiate the heat by circulation of ammonia. The ammonia is circulated in the for the heat removal outside, and water is circulated inside. And there are 2 big radiators on both sides of Russian orbital segment, which will throw out lot of heat. And most of this heat will be sent into the space when it was cool. Okay, next. This is the urine and the toilet processor. Actually, if you see all these walls, the type of oxygen pushing, water pushing, and then creating a vacuum, and then walls and operations, it looks like more like a technical big process on the chemical plant rather than on a toilet. Okay, which we do not see. This much is done. If people are interested, they can go into more detail. There are a lot of technical papers on urine processing and water processing in the published journals. Next. Now you will see the ground simulation facilities. When these astronauts have to do a large number of operations, how do they do? First thing is 1:1. 100% 1:1 space station is built on the ground, and the astronauts move inside and they first get acquainted. This is the first one. You can go for that.
Hey, NASA astronaut Reed Wiseman.
Hey,
Do you think you have a few minutes to answer everything about living in space?
I got all the time in the world.
Awesome. Well, where are we?
We are in the Space Vehicle Mock-Up Facility. It's a gigantic building at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. And this is where astronauts spend the bulk of their time training for spaceflight.
Is this the window where you took all those really cool pictures of Earth?
This is the cupola. It's a series of 7 windows that look down on the Earth.
Nice. How big is the International Space Station?
They say it's about the size of a 5-bedroom house. It's kind of hard for me to conceptualize. In reality, it's just really narrow and really long.
How long did you have to train before going to the ISS?
About 5 years.
And how many total days have you spent in space?
165.
What's the record?
Jeff Williams, he has the US record, 534 days in space. But Russian cosmonaut Gennady Padalka, almost 1,000.
Wow. What's a groundbreaking experiment that you completed aboard the ISS?
I survived.
I heard you age faster in space.
Maybe a little bit.
Is there a maximum height or age that you have to be to become an astronaut?
We used to have restrictions on that, but now it's pretty much come one, come all.
Is there Wi-Fi?
There is, but it's not as good as it is on Earth.
How do you get in contact with people on the ground?
We have space-to-ground communication systems. It's basically a radio or a walkie-talkie, and we just call on this and say hi to Houston.
Is there a delay?
Almost none.
How did you get to the station?
A rocket.
How long did it take for you to get from Earth to the space station?
Takes about 6 hours.
And how long did it take for you to get back?
Oh, that's a crazy ride. It's about 3 hours long.
Any jet lag?
Horrible jet lag.
How often do you get to talk to your family?
Get to talk to them once a week.
Ever prank call anyone?
Of course you prank call people.
He
Ever get
is
homesick?
moving into
Yeah,
the
you get homesick a
different
little bit.
laboratories
So
of
are the
space
beds
station.
comfy?
There are no beds.
I heard you have to be strapped to a wall.
You do?
Are you claustrophobic?
A little bit.
What else can you do in your room besides sleep?
You could read, watch TV, do some work, whatever you want.
Do you have a bedtime?
Everybody has a bedtime.
Do you have alarm clocks?
I use my watch.
How many crew members do you have?
It was me and 5 others.
Were there any language barriers?
Doc and Yeshna, of course there were language barriers.
Ever get sick of your roommates?
You never get sick of your roommates.
What did you do in your free time?
Oh, you look out the window.
What's a typical breakfast aboard the space station?
It was very much like a breakfast on Earth, so I liked eggs, occasional oatmeal, maybe even a waffle.
Was the food any good?
I actually thought the food was pretty good.
What's your favorite meal on the station?
I love chocolate pudding cake.
How do you cook your food?
You can either inject it with hot water or put it in a food warmer.
What's the first thing that you ate when you got back to Earth?
I really wanted a pizza, but I saw a salad and went for it.
So did you have to work out?
You work out twice a day for about 2.5 hours, 2.5 hours.
And what kinds of exercises?
Primarily, you're either lifting weights or running on the treadmill. Our treadmill is attached to the wall, and so when you're on it, you're running straight down towards Earth. Very weird feeling.
So how do you stay on the treadmill without floating away?
Bungee cords.
So do you burn the same amount of calories as you do on Earth?
I think you burn a little bit more because your brain is always active.
I heard that in microgravity, sweat sticks to you.
It does. If you have hair, it kind of builds up in your hair, and you get this big sweat bubble on your head.
How do you shower?
We have soap impregnated towels.
How do you pee in space?
Ooh. We have a funnel.
Where does your pee go after you flush?
A little bit of processing and then right back into the drinking water.
How do you pee in a spacesuit?
We have a diaper.
How much water do you have to drink each day?
You drink just about the same that you would on Earth.
Do you ever run out of anything?
Free time.
How do you get more supplies?
We have cargo ships. We have great companies like SpaceX, Orbital. We have Russian resupply vehicles and also Japanese HTV spacecraft.
What'd you miss most on Earth?
Oh, my wife and kids.
What personal items did you take with you?
Photos of my wife and kids.
Did you bring any space souvenirs home?
You always have to bring souvenirs home for your kids.
So I have to ask, what's your favorite planet?
Oh, it used to be Saturn until I saw Earth from space.
And if you were to travel anywhere in the solar system, where would you go?
I work at NASA. We all want to go to Mars.
Does the space station ever get too hot or too cold?
Oh, we keep it a balmy 72 all year round.
Nice. How about the temperature of space?
Plus 200F to minus 200F.
What about the temperature inside the spacesuit?
It's actually pretty warm, pretty nice, pretty comfortable because there's many layers of thermal protection.
How much does the spacesuit weigh?
Oh, it's really heavy. I think it's about 300 pounds.
How do you do your laundry?
We throw it out.
Do you have to clean the spacesuits?
Of course you got to clean the spacesuits, especially after a spacewalk.
How long does it take for you to put on a spacesuit?
About 45 minutes.
Can you put it on by yourself?
If you're in a pinch, you can put it on by yourself.
How long does a spacewalk normally take?
We train for about 6.5 hours.
And what's the max amount of time a spacewalk can last?
The maximum is about 9 hours. I think 8 hours and 54 minutes is our record.
How's the view?
Awesome.
What's the hardest thing about a spacewalk?
Just knowing that you're outside, and if you mess anything up, you've destroyed a $100 billion spacecraft.
And what's the most rewarding?
Coming back.
Sounds awesome. Well, I'm sure there are a lot more questions, but I know you're busy, so we'll save those for another time.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Thanks. Have a good one.
See ya.
Now you have seen in
I think what's
this
interesting about the
video,
space program and the
you have seen in this video the actual International Space Station, 1:1 on the ground. The only difference is here you saw the astronaut walking around, but in the space they float because there is weightlessness. That is the only difference. But this is mainly to know from which door to which door they should go and which equipment is where and which rack is where and what they should do and what they should not do. That training is done for a long time here. The next training is called neutral buoyancy facility. Because what happens If the people have to work in the space, as I told you, they float. So the floating has to be created because they have to go outside and work on the assembly, on the space station outside. So they should not fly away and they should not do mistakes. So what is done is a big swimming pool is created in which 1:1 size space station is inside put, and the astronauts will be inflated with their proper suit, etc., such that their buoyancy will be maintained at neutral. That means their mass is compensated by the lift they get in the water, so that they will be practically floating. But they cannot fly because water is there. In the space there is no water. So what is done is, you will see here how they are trained in the neutral buoyancy facility to work.
Safety number DB2, can you move the line on the WBS? Safety number DB2.
The people who are flying in the black dress are not the astronauts. They are the professional deep sea divers, and these divers are taken to assist the astronauts. The astronauts will be in the white space suit. You will see these divers will take them and put them where they have to work, and they start working there. It is more rehearsal for working outside on the space station. Now you will see. These are like our lab technicians, lab engineers and others. Okay? These are these black dress wearing, and that is astronaut who will be taken there and kept there to start working and giving him connections, water, gas, whatever tools.
So Tim, you need to be between the camera and the platform, if that makes sense. Between the camera and the platform. So if you're in your spot where you install where you stage your bags and install the APFR, the boom should be on the other side of you.
They will also communicate with the ground control and outside
Your
control.
backside. So for example, right now we have the camera pointing extension aft. Okay, so Tim, we think you're about right where you need to be. If you hold onto one of those circumferential handrails around Columbus, I mean, it's going to be somewhere in that vicinity.
Okay. close and go to the next. Yeah. Anyway, in a lighter vein, the videographer seems to be new. He is concentrating more on the deep sea divers rather than on the astronauts. Okay. Anyway, it's a lighter vein. Okay. Now the crew also are trained for the sleeping because they have to sleep with the belts on. Because after spending 6 months in the space, when they come back and try to sleep, after they get a small sleep, they get a feeling of flying and they really fly, try to fly. I mean, unknowingly, body tries to fly and they will fall down. So to avoid that, for a long time after they come back, they will be always strapped onto their beds and their legs are always, feet are always put in the feet holding. Without this, they will fall on the ground itself. In the space, they don't fall. Here they fall, okay. Now comes the extravehicular activity, and the extravehicular activity, so far there were 227 extravehicular activities are done. And these extravehicular vehicular activities are mainly to assemble the space station and for replacements. Like, you know, as I told you yesterday, batteries were replaced, or something which was not working had to be repaired, which you will see, or some problems come. So out of this, actually the best experience in the space walks and the repairs, US has got more experience because of space shuttle. The space shuttle crew, because each space shuttle takes 7 astronauts and they had 135 missions. So many of astronauts have gone there and they have done lot of assembly work of ISS also. So because of that they have got, so you will see 173 EVAs are by USA and about 54 are by Russians. And next, can you go to next slide? You will see here the spacesuit, Warlan spacesuit of Russia. Actually, this is made of aluminum, okay, and aluminum, and you have to enter from back. That means you have to enter, only this much is opening. The astronauts have to enter into, it's a single unit with the helmet also integrated, and it provides the vision, provides the communication, and provides the oxygen for breathing. It's 100% 0.3 bar. This is the most important thing. Yesterday I was telling you about pre-breathing. The spacesuit cannot be at the sea level pressure. If it is at sea level pressure, you can't bend your hand, you can't bend your leg, you can't bend your foot. It will be so rigid. So it has to be only at 30. I think Russians maintain at about 0.4 bar. That means 40% of the atmospheric pressure, and US maintains at 30%. And when they move it, they will go inside this. They have all the communication, water, gases and everything, and wastewater comes out. As I told, these spacesuits are designed for 7 hours of space activity outside. If it exceeds 8 hours or 7 or 8 hours, they get into another problem because they are breathing 100% oxygen. You are not supposed to breathe 100% oxygen. Oxygen breathing, there is a limit. 21% when we say of the oxygen in the atmosphere, you have 23% is upper limit, 19% lower limit for extended time. But for short time they can breathe. But before getting into, because the cabin is at sea pressure, sea level pressure, they have to do the pre-breathing to breathe in oxygen fully and release the nitrogen from their body. And this suit is made of aluminum, and its mass is 108 kg, and they can do for 8 hours of working. Next. Now this other suit is NASA suit. It's called the extravehicular mobility unit, and this is like a pant you can remove here, torso, and then you can assemble, you can get into this from the top and get into this from the bottom. And this has got the 0.3 bar atmosphere, 100% oxygen again, and again all the communications are there. Once they wear the suit, you can't distinguish between one and the other. So they have a badges here. The fellow having a red color badge is the captain, and the fellow who is having blue color is other people. So because it's not only extravehicular, same suits they wear when they are coming back or when they are just entering. Okay, and this one is made of 14 layers of aluminized mylar, and it's very flexible cloth, and this is 178 kg neoprene coated plastics and nylon is used, and you also neoprene cooling tubes which will cool the body. And you will see here on the outside how complicated it is to do. If somebody has to go here and then walk, it will be terrible. You know, by mistake he should not break a cable, he should not throw, even in the labs when we work, when everything is stretched, we are so careful to walk that we may break a cable and the whole test which is prepared for hours together may come to stop. So they have to be extremely careful. Here you will see very fine on a Canadian arm at the end, you will see here fellow. This is the astronaut. You can see him trying to look at the Soyuz module. Next you will see a EVA. Can you go to the next and click the link? You see here 2-3 things observe. How complicated it is outside and how do they manage. Everything they have to hook, otherwise it will fly away. Something you will see will fly away also in this. Okay, they have to keep on themselves, they have to hook, and everything what they take with them they have to hook, then only they will all be together. This is actual repair outside the International Space Station by one of the astronauts, and the video is taken from inside. Only lucky thing is because there is no gravity there is no weight for the things they carry. They just have to drag, it will fly along with it. Otherwise if the mass also is there, it will be terrible. Move forward. Now this is the EVA. That is the extravehicular activity outside, and they have to move in with their spacesuits, and they have to work very carefully for the removal. Next. Now, these expeditions, when they go there, are when the International Space Station is working for 20 to 23 years, you will wonder how there will be control on the ground. There will be 24 hours control, 3 shifts of operation. There will be always a team which will be sitting and interacting with them and telling them what to do, what not to do, and other things. You will see here interaction with the ground team by one of the astronauts.
Hi, I'm Mike Massimino, and this is Inside the International Space Station. Today we're going to go into the Mission Control Center.
That's the Inside International Space Station is a program,
He's been
TV
in space
program.
for almost 6 months, and he's coming home soon. And we're going to talk to him
This is a
about
ground
some of the
control
great
station
images, some of the
at
great
the Johnson
photography
Space
he's
Center.
taken while he's been in space. Come on, let's go say hello to Mike. Not even doing anything, no, you're not getting any of this. This is some of Emily's
It's all
best stuff.
electrons, man. There's no more film. It's all electrons.
Here's a red light.
Oh, there's a red light. Turn it away, I don't want to see myself. No pictures. No, it
Yeah,
makes me look at the
seriously, we don't
thing.
need to see that.
All right, is Mike ready for this?
I think so.
What happened to Dylan? He disappeared again?
No, he's here.
He's on the phone. Dylan's ordering a pizza.
It was really cool over in the IMAX theater over Space Center Houston.
If you were traveling that fast, how fast is it though? It's Well, we really appreciate you spending some time with us. We know you're coming to the end of your stay up there, and you know, very little time, and you're real busy. But we just wanted to ask you a couple questions. You know, one thing that's been going on down here is we've really been enjoying this great photography, these images you've been sending down, and it almost looks like it's science fiction or some kind of Hollywood stuff. But there's no way anyone could imagine this, of how beautiful it is. And so we're wondering, how did you do this? Well, how do you get those great shots that you've been getting of?
Well, first of all, it started with some good equipment that we have, and particularly the low light stuff. It's the D3 camera has some really amazing low light capabilities, and then it was good training. The training team at JSC, I told them I was interested in this kind of stuff, and so we worked on it some. I started with the training and the procedures up here, and then I started practicing, and that's one of the great things about a long duration mission. On a shuttle mission, you're good if you can point a camera to the window and take a few snapshots. But up here, you have the time, and we have weekends and some off-duty time to practice these things, and that's what I did. I spent a lot of time, you know, in the cupola during the night passes.
This is just to show you how they interact with the ground continuously. So I'm a little bit hastening.
A lot of fun and very enjoyable.
You enjoyed that half as much as I did. It was, of course, I was here and getting a chance to actually speak to Mike, but getting to hear his stories and having a chance to see the imagery he's taken, the pictures he's taken, and getting to hear his personal feelings about being in space and sharing those pictures with us, that was quite a treat. So, Emily, I'm very glad you let us in. Thank you very much
Anytime.
for letting us come in here, and thank you for watching Inside the ISS.
Next. Now, the return of the crew and then getting into the Soyuz and landing will be the next video. Yeah.
Now you're looking live in the Rosviet module's vestibule. Yuri Malenchenko on the left, Tim Kopra in the center, Tim Peake of the European Space Agency on the right, as they gather to say farewell to Jeff Williams, Oleg Skoropochka, and Alexei Ovchinin. Final farewells and handshakes all the way around before they make their way through that hatchway behind Peake into the Soyuz TMA-19M spacecraft. Kopra first, followed by Peake, as we are about to lose our signal through the tracking and data relay satellite system. Some bonus KU coverage now, as Malenchenko offers a final wave and a farewell. The crew, once inside the Soyuz, will begin the process of closing the hatch Once the hatch is closed, they will transfer the Soyuz vehicle from ISS-provided power to autonomous power through the remainder of the Soyuz's time through undocking and its return to Earth. And you see at the hatchway Alex Skripochka and Alexei Ovchinin in the foreground. As they prepare to close the hatch, there will be leak checks conducted on both sides of the docking interface between the hatchway for the Soyuz and the International Space Station before that vestibule is depressurized down to vacuum, setting the stage for the actual undocking of the Soyuz from Rosviet that is scheduled 3 hours and 19 minutes from now.
How it's going to separate?
Undocking confirmed at 12:52 a.m. Central Time, 1:52 a.m. Eastern Time, as the Soyuz and the International Space Station flew 254 miles over far eastern Mongolia.
Give me your estimate.
With undocking, Expedition 48 is now formally underway aboard the International Space Station under the command of NASA's Jeff Williams.
What is your estimate of the docking port? No comments. Copy. It's all clean.
And this is a view from the Soyuz as it backs away from the Rosviet module of the International Space Station. Again, undocking occurring on time at 12:52 a.m. Central, 1:52 a.m. Eastern Time.
In a minute. Waiting for the first burn in 3 minutes. Copy.
This burn will happen 12 kilometers away from the space station.
We're about a minute away from the first separation burn. Again, that will be an 8-second burn to increase the opening rate between the Soyuz and the station by about 0.6 of a meter per second.
Soyuz TMA 19M departing. Farewell, gentlemen. See you on the ground.
The traditional ringing of the bell on board the International Space Station by its new commander, NASA's Jeff Williams.
Good luck to you. See you on the ground. See you soon.
Having launched last December 15th, the Soyuz TMA 19M begins the journey home. Next stop, the steppe of Kazakhstan.
Thruster activation. Yes. We call.
First separation burn underway.
8 seconds. Operation.
And the separation burn complete.
We see the maneuver. Yes, we can observe the maneuver.
Town of Zhezkazgan.
Now it's coming down with the parachute.
And we're standing by for touchdown.
You watch here at the end of their journey when they come out how they will be and how they will be taken.
The Soyuz is home. Touchdown confirmed at 4:15 a.m. Central Time. And now video has been reestablished from the landing site. A good view of Yuri Malenchenko, the Soyuz commander. And Tim Peake, the first British astronaut to fly on the International Space Station. Peake completing his first mission. Malenchenko completing 6 flights into space and a total of 828 days away from the planet, second most on the all-time list behind fellow cosmonaut Gennady Padalka.
Raise the legs up.
They have to be lifted like that because they can't
Okay, everyone's
walk,
doing their
okay?
job.
Doc, if you want the fan connect.
All 3 crew members now out of the Soyuz vehicle.
Okay, it's going. Is that good?
Enjoy that weather. It's not often that we experience.
Now, after they come back also, they cannot walk for a long time. So, after they spend about 4 to 6 months in the space, they have to be kept 10 hours a day in the swimming pool floating. Then slowly their legs and movement and weight bearing capacity, all the things return, then they get readjusted. Next slide. Now, some of you may wonder whether this whole space station of 20 years, had it gone very smooth? No, it had not gone very smooth, but it did not have any major problems all through. It had problems like some of them, all computers were down in the Russian side once, and then they had to be restarted. There was nothing to control, and then the ammonia was leaking at some times. And when they have taken the solar panels from the intermediate location to final location, a solar panel mat tore off. So somebody had to go there, astronaut, stitch it back. So that type of problems are there. But the major problem is, next slide. One of the major problems was an astronaut who was doing the extravehicular activity outside is an Italian astronaut called Lucas Parmitano. When he was doing it, as I told you, the helmet and the suit are sealed, and in the helmet water started accumulating and it started increasing. He can communicate up to some time, but then it started moving beyond his mouth, beyond his nose, up to his eyes. It was a very serious thing. 1.5 liters of water accumulated in the helmet. Immediately he was withdrawn and the water is taken out. And then they found out that one of the filters got clogged and then water entered into the helmet. That means the filter clogging is happening in space also, not only on the ground. In another case, one astronaut went up in 2008 to repair one joint, the SARJ, that is the alpha joint, what yesterday I told, for the rotation of the solar panels, which got stuck. And she took the toolbox and she just opened the toolbox and toolbox flew away because she forgot to tie it to the one of the holding points. So the whole toolbox has gone away. Now the toolbox must be orbiting somewhere. Okay, it is also one of the small satellites. Okay, next. Now some of the questions are what type of research they do. The research is done in the material science, in the technology experiments, where you have seen auto self-navigated robots being photographed, which look like football-like thing. And then the earth and space sciences, mainly the alpha magnetic spectrometer, which was added in 2011, which is expected to give a lot of input for astronomers on the dark matter. And then the biology and biotechnology and the educational activities. Okay, next slide. Okay, you can click on this. This gives some very brief public domain.
3, 2, 1, and liftoff of Tom Marshburn, Roman Romanenko, and Chris Hadfield.
And do not expect great details from this. You have to get great details only from the published paper.
Orbiting
This is
200
for
miles above their home
normal
planet, people
layman,
manning the International
okay?
Space Station have a prime location for watching events both in the galaxy and down here on Earth. They also do some pretty amazing experiments while they're up there. Here are 10 of the coolest ones. Number 10, creating the coldest place in the universe. Most of space is already chilly at around 454 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit, but the ISS is going further.
We aim to push effective temperatures down to 100 picokelvin. 100 picokelvin is just 1/10 of a degree above absolute zero, where all the thermal activity of atoms theoretically stops. In that realm, matter can be in two places at once. Objects behave as both particles and waves, and nothing is certain.
Number 9, floating 3D mapping robots. This summer, Google and the ISS will team up and try out some new technology. It's hoped that with the advanced mapping skills, the machines will someday become adept enough at self-navigation to assist astronauts and make repairs at the station.
Someday they may be able to fly around and kind of help us, maybe carry our tools for us, or maybe hold a camera for us. And then maybe some days little satellites like this can even fly around outside the space station.
Number 8, making the coolest home videos ever. The ISS team has installed 4 video cameras on the station's exterior. They are always on, streaming videos of the home planet that are viewable online. The goal is to find the best video solution for space use. Number 7, space gardening. In an effort to someday provide astronauts with fresh veggies, the team is experimenting with growing lettuce. They're using special seeded plant pillows as regular gardening approaches won't work in zero gravity. It's tough to get the seeds to stay in the dirt. Number 6, putting out fires. Flames act differently up there, requiring a rethinking of how to best extinguish them or keep them burning, depending upon what the occasion calls for. Findings will help with everything from making better safety mechanisms to manufacturing cleaner fuels.
We burn fuel droplets in microgravity to understand how liquid fuels burn.
Number 5, we all know that water can be used to extinguish fire. ISS scientists are working on what is called supercritical water that actually helps start fire.
Water becomes supercritical when it is compressed to a pressure of 217 atmospheres and heated above 703.4 degrees Fahrenheit. Above that so-called critical point, ordinary H2O transforms into something that is neither solid, liquid, nor gas. This really comes in handy when you want to get rid of certain unpleasant materials, like sewage.
Number 4, cancer-fighting capsules. Due to the specific targeting abilities of the liquid-filled microcontainers, the delivery method could someday negate the need for intravenous treatments, which could mean fewer side effects.
In the space station, that was the definitive experiments when we did 8 experiments encapsulating 7 different kinds of drugs and a genetically engineered DNA.
Number 3, fruit fly studies. Humans and fruit flies have more in common than one would think. Thus, they're often used in studies covering a myriad of molecular, genetic, cellular, and physiological responses. Observing them in space allows researchers to see how gravity can affect systems, as well as the impact space travel has on people. Number 2, natural disaster assessment. Using its unmatched viewing perspective to great advantage, the ISS has a remote camera that can zero in on areas affected by catastrophic events. Among the things it can do is help relief organizations find their way to the people in need. Number 1, launching satellites. Sending satellites into space from Earth is expensive and complicated. The Japanese Aerospace and Exploration Agency has made the process a whole lot more cost-effective and efficient by installing a small craft launcher onto the ISS.
Now, these are the research very briefly told on the public domain, but if you want to get into real research, what is being done, and want to get into more details, for example, the wastewater treatment and urine treatment, there are a number of papers which give much details in the Elsevier and other places. Like that, on all this research, you should get into those articles, especially on the medical research, countermeasures of body changes. There is a lot more to be done, and this research must be conducted both on earth and on the ground. Okay. Now, this gives you a brief outlook on what type of activities crew do, how do the crew trained on the ground, and on the neutral buoyancy facility in the big swimming pool, and then how they are taken, and once their activities are completed, how they return. So the research part of it, what is shown here, is very, very limited and given by the NASA in its videos for public domain. But if you want to go into, for example, one area where still research is going on and very confidential is the synchronization between eye view and hand movement. In the space, it doesn't happen as it happens on the ground. So sometimes where if the astronaut wants to put a hand at one place, it will go some other place. So that research is going on, because as you see, the ISS objectives is to construct a big orbiting facility, to train people for long-term space stay, and then to do the research, and then prepare grounds for the astronauts to go finally to the Mars for habitation. So with this main objectives, research doing on a particular topic is not the main objective. It is incidentally science is being done because assembly is completed. But basically their objective is to have long-term stay, and what happens to the body, what happens to the human being, what happens to metabolism, and what happens to the things I told you, like the muscle atrophy, calcium loss in the bones, and cardiovascular rhythm disruption, and the elongation of the spinal cord a little bit, all these things. So this is the further thing which is going on. The next slide. So now the important results of the medical experiment so far concentrate only on two things, two main things. One is on the deconditioning on the earth. Once you come back, how do you adjust it so quickly? Because yesterday, as I told you, if people have to go to Mars, work there and come back, they have to travel 10 months towards Mars, work in the Mars at 30% of the Earth's gravity for 2 years, because 2 years is the time to get a best chance to come back to Earth, and then travel another 10 months, and then come back and get adjusted to 1G atmosphere. So this requires a lot of research and is still going on. And there are some special disorders which the astronauts randomly show. Like there's a particular syndrome called, they don't feel the hands are there and legs are there suddenly for some time. And they can't move, they can't use anything. So this type of things, how to do, how to condition them is being done. And mainly, of course, the change due to space environment in terms of loss of red cells, fluid redistribution, and cardiovascular deconditioning. This is the research which is still going on. So, next. Now, in these 3 lectures, I had shown you explained to you how the International Space Station, which is 420 tons, multi-element, assembled, designed from 1994, or in fact designed from 1980, 1994 configuration finalized. By 2011, total 420 ton station is assembled, and 6 crew are continuously there from 2009. Crew is continuously present from 2002 onwards, last 20 years, and an excellent research is going on. And so far 241 astronauts have spent their time and did research on various areas. As you see, the space activity is very progressive. It is completely scientifically based. It doesn't discriminate people based on religion, caste, race, color, gender, or anything. It is this type of scientific temper all of you should develop, so that you will get into real science and engineering which are progressive, which are essential for the development of the society. That is the objective of this series of lectures, to celebrate 20 years of continuous human presence of astronauts on the space station, International Space Station, done by, not by India, not by ISRO, again I'm telling, it is by 5 space agencies: NASA of USA, Roscosmos of Russia, ESA on behalf of 11 European countries, JAXA of Japan, and CSA of Canada. They have done at a cost of $100 billion, that is 7 lakh crores over 13 years, and this will continue to work officially up to 2024, most probably up to 2030 if there are no problems, because some of them life is limited. So at the end of it, it will be deorbited by pieces, it will come down, and then again in the future some other countries, maybe India or maybe some other country will develop space station. That's all the story of International Space Station. Thank you very much. Last slide you go. Okay, there is one, most of the people must be wondering why I have taken space station. In the beginning I told you, one of the values is cooperation. Okay, that is very important for us. There is a small story here. There was a person was taken to a place and shown a lot of food, lot of people, but hungry and fighting. They found spoons are very long, bigger than their arms, so they cannot eat. So they were hungry, and then he told, this is hell. Then this man asked, where is the heaven, you show me. Then he took him to another room. There, again, similar type of food, similar type of big spoons, bigger than the hands. But people are very happy and well fed. They asked, how is it possible? They learned each fellow with the spoon to feed the other fellows. That is the cooperation. With that, they were all very happy. So this is the story which shows the cooperation. The Russia, which is having excellent heritage with long-term stay in the space. USA with excellent designs and lot of influence and money. And European countries and Japanese, which have got excellent capability in terms of heavy lift launch vehicles, and Canada, which has got decades of experience in the arm technology. All of them came together, fed each other where the other fellow is not able to eat, and then created the space station. This is the International Space Station, is the story of global cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We'll now proceed for the interaction session.
Any questions by anybody, I can answer. Okay? Very quickly, your time also is...
In the meantime, sir...
how much time you have? Yeah.
One of the 6th standard student who is watching this has asked a question. What is the lifetime of ISS and how will ISS escape from space debris? Which you have answered it yesterday.
Yeah, but I can again tell. He must be watching now, okay? Okay. The lifetime individually is not, individual elements have got lifetime. As I told you, the first element, which was Zarya, which was part of Almaz space station of old USSR, and Zvezda, which was the part of Soyuz DOS-8, Durable Orbital Station 8 of the Salyut. These two have got 15 years of lifetime. That means 1998 they were launched, so 15 years is well past, but still they are working. Then some of the space station like the US lab has got about 20 years of lifetime as published long back, but that also is past. So mostly the things which will be having the lifetime limitations are batteries. As I told you, nickel hydrogen batteries were replaced in 2009. They were placed in 1999, and 2009 they were completely replaced. And again 2016-17 they are replaced with a new set of batteries. Again the alpha joint is replaced. The beta joint, one of them, I'm not sure whether that is replaced, but alpha joint is definitely repaired, lubricated, and which got stuck is made operational. I think this much only we have about the life, and the only one confirmation was originally the space station is supposed to be completed by its operations by 2015. But they extended up to 2018, then extended up to 2022, and on the recommendation of expert panel, now it is officially extended up to 2024. So we expect the experts would have gone through into details, and up to 2024, they do not expect any problem. That is the first answer. And the second answer on the space debris are from millimeters to tons. So the type of design of the International Space Station is 1 centimeter debris it should withstand. 1 to 10 centimeter debris will pierce, but it should not pierce the inner wall. And anything about 10 centimeter debris which can be tracked from the ground, they have to, if it is coming to hit it, the International Space Station will be moved away and will be brought back. This is how they manage, and for that purpose they build each wall with a number of layers, an aluminum layer, an Nextel cloth layer, Kevlar cloth layer, and another 3.2 mm aluminum wall. So all these things will protect the International Space Station. So far, there is not a single accident of piercing the International Space Station by the debris.
And one more question from the same student, sir. Yeah. What is the maximum time that an astronaut can stay in space? Is there any restrictions on that?
There are no restrictions. As already told, on single, not the single record, cumulative record is by one of the Russian cosmonauts. He had stayed more than 1,400 days. On a single mission on the space station, same team, 1 year they stayed in 2015-16, continuously one year. And the first astronaut of the International Space Station from Russia, Sergei Krikalev, he had gone only for 6 months to stay in the Mir space station. But when he is in the Mir space station, lot of changes happened in USSR, and USSR crashed, and it had become Russia, and there was practically no control, and they asked him to extend, and instead of 6 months, he stayed there for 15 months, and then came back. So as far as we know, Sergei Krikalev 15 months, and the 2015-16 one-year crew on ISS, and Polka, I think Polka is his name, he had got 1,500 days of stay, but in multiple missions. This is what is known to us today.
We have a question from Mr. Vinod Kumar Srivatsava, sir.
Yeah.
SpaceX launched module takes less time to dock compared to other modules. Is it correct? You would like to know.
No, it's not correct, because SpaceX, whatever was launched on the 16th November 2020, took 1 day to dock. Normally, as I told yesterday, whatever is launched by the Soviet Soyuz launch vehicle used to take 48 hours, 2 days to dock. Now they have changed it to dock either 6 hours or 3 hours. 3 hours docking they have achieved already. So the fastest docking now comes Soyuz in 3 hours. Next shortest docking is 6 hours by Soyuz. And third one is the SpaceX in 24 hours. That is 1 full day. This is online going to many people. Sir, this is going online to many people, and they were asking the questions. Yes.
And the deorbiting module, like deorbiting satellite functions, or is there any other method for it?
No, there is no method, because if you want to come out of the orbit and come back, you have to deorbit. Only good thing is, if you want from ground to go into orbit, you need to achieve 7.667 kilometers per second, or 7.7 kilometers per second to achieve. But to return, you have to only give a velocity of 143 meters per second, or roughly around that. 100 to 150 meters per second if you give, you will straight away come. And when you come to an altitude of 122 kilometers above the Earth, which is the re-entry interface, your velocity, whether you started with 11 kilometers per second or 7.7 kilometers per second, will come down to about 1.1 to 1.2 kilometers per second. At that velocity, it will re-enter the atmosphere and then will go through a lot of heating, re-entry heating, fireball around it, and then finally it will land after the heat shield protection. Heat shield protection is more important than the burn. So burn need to be only very short. But that's why you have seen just now in the video, they were talking about 8 seconds burn and 15 seconds burn. That's all. That is sufficient to bring it back. Okay.
We would like the students to ask few questions now.
Yeah. Put it properly and ask.
In ISS, during their stay in the cabin, none of the astronauts must have encountered any infection. I think so.
For COVID, they have taken a lot of precaution when they have sent the people during COVID period to the International Space Station. And one, of course, I told the biggest problem is in the International Space Station, really there is no doctor, there is no hospital. Everything has to be telemedicine. Only the medicine supplies and immediate health requirements and things will be there, and somebody from the ground has to tell. But in case sometimes doctors are also sent along with the team. So like I told you, one doctor went to Mir space station and spent 6 months. So at that time, something happens to somebody, they can get it. As far as I knew, as far as I read, okay, that means whatever is in public domain, as far as I read, nobody got affected. Only one Salyut space station, one astronaut got heavy cold. Then he remembered his grandmother telling, if you have a cold, you should stay in the sun. And so he went and sat near the window where the sunshine is coming for half an hour, and his cold was gone. Okay? That is the only thing we knew.
What I presume is that none of the pathogen will survive there, sir. So there is no infection.
No, you can't say, because they're doing experiment. They're all sealed, because you have seen the fruit fly. And the fruit fly research they are doing with basically all the pathogens and all types of things. Some medical experiments also they're doing. Some drug research they're doing. But only thing is they're all in sealed glove boxes, fully sealed, sanitized and other things.
So what is the temperature, sir, inside the cabin?
Inside the cabin is normal temperature, 18 degrees to 19 degrees. But they can keep the samples at minus 80 to minus 90 degrees centigrade, special glow boxes, okay, are the cooling systems.
Thank you, sir.
So then, what will be the timing of ISS?
You just tell your name and class and then.
Sorry, sir. My name is Nagendra. I'm from civil third year, sir.
Okay.
So what is the timing of ISS, sir, after its operational time?
It will work up to 2024 from now, another 4 years.
Okay, sir.
And it is likely to extend a few more years. But it all depends upon how these systems start functioning beyond 2024. Because we all thought the same thing when the Mir was there, it is going to be there for another 10 years. Suddenly everything started failing. So they didn't want the whole control to fail and come and land on a populated area. So they decided to controlled way to bring it back and crash it onto the atmosphere. So such a thing can happen after 2024. But up to 2024 it will work. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
Time అయిపోతుందా పర్వాలేదా
Good afternoon, sir. This is Sharita from first year.
Is it possible to build a space station with artificial gravity?
Where? Where to build? What is your mind, in your mind? Where to build? Inside the space station to create gravity, you mean?
Yes, sir.
Yes, it is possible and it is planned, and there is a centrifugal facility in which you can keep the animals and other samples at 1G by rotating. It is also there in the International Space Station. There is a small module in which, see, normally how the gravity is created. Suppose if we are on the ground, if we are tested to more than 1G, how do we test? Because only 1G works, okay? If you are to be given higher G, you will be put in a big arm at one end, and that arm will be rotated at a very high speed. When it is rotated at a high speed, you can be exercised to 2G, 3G, 4G or anything. All these astronauts will be tested up to 4, 5G. Okay? Before, this is part of their training. That's called centrifuge facility. A part of centrifuge facility for small samples is built and already working in the International Space Station. And it is possible to create. It all depends upon how much area you have, how much space you have. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
So I am very thankful Chairman Dr. Lau Rattai Garu has come and graced this lecture series. Okay? Thank you.
We'll proceed. We would like to request our Honorable Chairman also to address the gathering.
On behalf of myself and on behalf of you, and also the people who are there on the net, I thank Sri M.Y.S.Prasad Garu, Vice Chancellor of Vignan University, for delivering these 3 continuous lectures. Yes, as a celebration of completion of 20 years of human presence on space. So that's a very good exercise. I thank him on behalf of everybody over here. I think all of you gone to the space from the last 3 days. You are in the space. And thinking a lot and imagining yourselves like a movie, what will happen, I am there, what will be there, and all these things. It is a good exercise, must be a very interesting exercise. I thank you all for attending this lecture, and I thank those people who are on the net, who around the globe. So there are many people around this area and also from the other countries who are there on this lecture. I thank them. And thank everybody, every one of them for participating in this. But one thing is certain, but space research, we don't know whether people will go and live there or not, or how many years will take to go to the moon or Mars or something. But the whole process gives lot of research, lot of ancillary benefits for the humankind. So this communication is developed out of the space research. The communication, what it is there as a cell phone in your hands, it is there with you, with us, out of the space research. And many metallurgical elements are out of the space research, metallurgy and other things. Many physics concepts are evolved out of the space research. And medicinal things are evolved from the space research. These are many things. So, yeah, the basic question is, So they are spending $700 million or $700 billion. What is the madness if it is spent for the poor man or for poor the countries? So yes, this is some of the basic questions people ask about the space research. But the amount of returns what we are getting for the human development is enormous. It is almost it is worth 100 times what they spent for this research. So every field, it requires every field, pharmacy, medicine, mechanical, electronics, programming, everything is required. I think in the last 3 lectures you must have understood this part. Everybody is required. Most of you are thinking computer programming, computers is the only thing for the life. It is not true. So to make something really happen, so it requires everybody, mechanical fellow, computer science, ECE fellow or biotechnology fellow, bioinformatics, everybody is required to make something really happen. So I think all of you must have enjoyed the last 3 days. I hope and I wish Prasad Garu will deliver more number of lectures. And take all these youngsters to the space. They can't go really be astronauts. Giving a feeling of astronaut is something good. So that's good, wonderful. Once again, I thank Prasad Garu and also thank all the audience. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.
In fact, Chairman defended the space programs much better than me in the last few sentences. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'd now like to request our Honorable Chairman, Dr. Rao Rattaya, to please step onto the dais for felicitating Dr. M.Y.S.Prasad. I also request all the deans and heads of department to please step onto the dais to accompany the chairman.
I thank each and every HOD and all the team for making this event a grand success. I thank each and everyone participating online and everyone who is attending here. And I must thank all the team which had made the PPTs and everything for this. Thank you.
People are here, you are interested in these lessons. But hereafter, remember and convey to your friends also, where a large number of events should happen. In any event, I don't want to see any paper with you. Everything should be in your mind. There should be a clear mind map. And you should do it in an extempore way. We do not mind if you go wrong. We do not mind if you make mistakes. You are children, you have to make mistakes. So we are here to correct you. Don't worry about this. Okay. Okay, fine. Don't use the paper or any kind of support. Talk in an extempore way. Thank you. All the best.